Chiron, there's so many electrical wires, piping, oil piping, water piping, fuel lines that connect from the monocoque to the rear section, and they have to split the car in half. You can't do that in a garage. There's just a few places in the world with the right equipment and only a few people in the world with the right training to be able to do that.
Bugatti locked Matt Armstrong out. Koenigsegg sent him a personal invitation instead. And somewhere in Sweden, Pagani might be watching closely, ready to make its own move. A $6 million Chiron sat wrecked in a garage, a car Bugatti swore only 2 facilities on Earth could touch. Matt Armstrong split it open anyway, with his own hands, using nothing but standard tools. Bugatti went silent. Then their own customers turned against them, one calling the brand a scam, another dragging out a buried family scandal involving prison time and fraud. Meanwhile, a smaller manufacturer did something no billion-dollar brand had bothered to do. They said thank you. So who's really losing this fight? Stay with us. The full story is about to unfold. The man brands couldn't control. Matt Armstrong didn't become famous by being careful with expensive cars. He became famous by fixing the ones everyone else had given up on. A totaled Porsche GT3 RS. A Lamborghini Aventador SVJ that looked beyond saving. An Aston Martin DBX that had been fully submerged in water. A wrecked Ferrari 812 Superfast, which he rebuilt piece by piece and gave to his own father as a gift.
But one last thing, my dad has now got to fix all the broken parts on the car because this is yours.
What?
This is your Ferrari.
Each project added to a reputation that grew faster than any single manufacturer could control. The turning point came with a Lamborghini Revuelto, one of the most electronically advanced hypercars ever built. It had been written off, sent to a scrapyard, and left for dead. Matt bought it and brought it back to life for close to £500,000. While he worked on it, Lamborghini sent him a warning. If he filmed certain parts of the process, the brand would pull all support for the car going forward. Most builders in his position would have backed off. Matt didn't. He told them plainly that it made no difference to him either way. If Lamborghini refused to help, he would film that refusal and show it to millions of people. If they helped, that footage would do just as much good for them. He was going to make the video regardless, and people were going to watch it regardless. That's exactly what happened. Porsche ran a similar playbook not long after. Matt had bought his dream car, a 2024 GT3 RS, and wanted a performance kit for it. Porsche refused to sell it to him, not because the repair was unsafe, but because the car's history showed prior crash damage on its VIN record. It took months of pressure and a full inspection before Porsche gave in, and the moment his video on the rebuild started pulling in views, Porsche's attitude flipped overnight. Suddenly, they wanted to know how they could be part of it. By the time Bugatti became the next brand to draw a hard line, Matt had already seen this pattern twice. A manufacturer resists, a video performs, and the same manufacturer comes looking for a seat at the table once the story has already been told without them. The only thing that changed each time was the badge on the car. This history matters because it explains why Matt didn't hesitate when a wrecked Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport landed in his sights.
Today, we're about to attempt what Bugatti think is impossible.
Ferrari had reportedly said the car was too damaged for anyone but their own factory to touch. Matt's 6 million subscribers had watched him prove that kind of claim wrong before. They were about to watch him do it again, and this time the fallout would reach far beyond one garage. What separates Matt from other builders isn't just skill with a wrench. It's the way he treats a manufacturer's refusal as content rather than a dead end. Every locked door becomes part of the story he tells. A brand that says no doesn't stop the video from being made, it just changes what the video is about. That single mindset shift turned a handful of car rebuilds into a channel that manufacturers now watch as closely as their own competitors. It also explains why brands keep misjudging him. Companies built around exclusivity are used to controlling every detail of how they're seen. Matt built an audience by showing exactly what they try to hide: the real cost of parts, the real difficulty of a repair, the real gap between what a brand claims and what an independent garage can actually do. 6 million subscribers didn't show up because he flattered these manufacturers. They showed up because he didn't. The $6 million fight. The car at the center of this entire story is a Bugatti Chiron Per Sport, worth roughly $6 million. Only 60 were ever built. After a crash involving its owner, a car enthusiast known online as FX Alex G, the world was left with 59 in drivable condition. Alex G had bought the Chiron only months after purchasing his first Bugatti, and the accident left the car seriously damaged. His insurance paid out, and most owners in that position would have handed the wreck to a scrap buyer and moved on. Alex G didn't. He bought the car back and reached out to Matt Armstrong with an unusual question.
My first original thought process was that, when am I gonna have the opportunity to buy my second Bugatti Per Sport back? You know, like I thought that I was just gonna crash it, lose it, and never have it back. But there's like a sentimental attachment that I have to the car.
Could this be rebuilt outside Bugatti's official network, instead of paying the factory's quoted price of $1.7 million? That question turned into a public fight almost immediately. Bugatti's CEO, Matt Armstrong, addressed the situation directly online. His position was firm. Independent repairs on a car this complex were not something Bugatti would support, and his reasoning centered on safety, engineering complexity, and responsibility to customers. Rimac first tackled a rumor that had spread across social media: the claim that a single Bugatti headlight cost $150,000. He corrected the number, putting the real figure closer to $25,000 per headlight, meaning a full pair runs about $50,000. Still expensive, but nowhere near the viral number. He explained that Bugatti builds only a small number of cars each year, so the enormous research and development cost behind every part gets spread across a tiny production run. Price wasn't his main argument, though. Safety was. Rimac claimed the damaged Chiron had structural issues that weren't visible from the outside: possible cracking in the carbon fiber monocoque, and damage to the gearbox housing connected directly to an engine built for speeds above 250 miles per hour. He argued that separating the chassis safely required factory-level tools that most independent garages simply don't have, and that hypercar airbags are calibrated to the individual model, not universal parts that can be swapped in without specialized testing. It was a reasonable-sounding argument, but the backlash came fast, and it came from the owner himself. Alex G pointed out that headlights have nothing to do with structural safety. They don't require splitting a car in half, and any trained mechanic can install them without factory equipment. If safety was truly the only issue, he asked, why would Bugatti refuse to sell parts that carried no safety risk at all? Alex G wasn't finished there. He pointed out that Bugatti's own factory, quote,
Bugatti, you don't want to sell me fucking parts, huh? Bugatti, you don't want to sell me parts. Okay, no problem. You know, I've been a follower of Bugatti. I've been a brand representative of Bugatti for a very long time. I'm always wearing the hat, Bugatti fucking hoodie, but no longer, all right?
Had already dropped by 70% from its original number once he pushed back, which raised an obvious question. If the first price was fair, why did it fall so far so fast the moment a customer questioned it? And if it wasn't fair, how many other owners had simply paid the original number without asking? That single question opened up a much bigger conversation. People online started asking whether owners of 6- and 7-figure cars actually own them outright, or whether manufacturers keep quiet control through parts access alone. Some sided with Bugatti, arguing manufacturers have a right to protect both their engineering and their customers. Others saw it as a company using a safety argument to justify total control over repairs. Matt Armstrong never joined the online debate. He simply split the Chiron open in his own garage, using standard tools, doing the exact thing Bugatti claimed only 2 facilities on the planet were equipped to handle. Millions watched it happen. The car community celebrated. Bugatti said nothing at all. No statement, no follow-up, no acknowledgement. That silence would end up costing them more than they expected. The timing made everything worse for Bugatti. Rimac had built his entire case around one idea, that separating this car safely was beyond what any outside garage could manage. The moment that separation happened on camera, in an ordinary workshop, every warning he issued turned into a talking point against him instead of for him. Fans didn't see a reckless YouTuber ignoring expert advice. They saw an expert claim get tested in real time and fail. There's also a simpler explanation floating around the community for why Bugatti drew such a hard line. A car this rare carries weight beyond its price tag. Every Chiron per sport still running adds to the story Bugatti tells about the model's exclusivity and performance. A failed independent repair, or worse, a serious accident during one, would have handed critics a headline, "Bugatti could never fully walk back." From that angle, the caution starts to look less like control for its own sake and more like risk management around a brand's own image. Whether that justifies locking out the owner entirely is exactly what split opinion online. The box from Sweden. While Bugatti stayed quiet, a package arrived at Matt Armstrong's shop from Ängelholm, Sweden, home of Koenigsegg, since Christian von Koenigsegg founded the company in 1994. Inside was premium merchandise, the kind of hoodies and limited apparel typically reserved for buyers who have spent millions on one of their cars. Matt had never owned a Koenigsegg. He had never even worked on one. What made the package stand out wasn't the clothing. It was the note tucked inside, pointing him toward Koenigsegg's own engineering breakdown videos, the kind of deep technical content built for viewers who already understand how a gearbox works and want to know what makes theirs different. Bugatti had spent the entire Chiron dispute protecting even its headlights and airbags from outside eyes. Koenigsegg was doing the opposite, practically handing over its engineering philosophy to a YouTuber it had no formal relationship with. Koenigsegg builds fewer than 35 cars a year, making it one of the most exclusive manufacturers on Earth. A company that small doesn't do anything by accident. Someone there had clearly watched Matt's content, understood exactly what he does and who watches him, and decided the smartest move wasn't a sponsorship pitch. It was an invitation into how their engineering actually works. The contrast with the brands Matt had already worked with was hard to miss. The Lamborghini Revuelto rebuild pulled in tens of millions of views, and Lamborghini never said a word about it. The Ferrari 812 and 296 rebuilds introduced an entire generation of viewers to hybrid powertrain engineering in more depth than any official Ferrari content had managed. And Ferrari stayed silent too. Meanwhile, a Swedish brand he had never touched sent recognition, merchandise, and a genuine invitation to dig deeper into their engineering. Traditional manufacturers have always treated media access as something to control tightly, releasing information only when it suits them, on their own terms, through their own messaging. Matt's channel works against that entire model, breaking cars apart in a Leicester workshop and explaining every piece to millions of people. Removing the mystery brands spend decades and billions of dollars building. Bugatti's response to the Chiron rebuild was that old model taken to its extreme, locking the VIN, withholding parts, and doubling down on control. Koenigsegg looked at the same situation and drew a completely different conclusion. They saw a creator with 6 million engaged subscribers who understands engineering at a real level and explains it honestly, without talking down to his audience. They saw an opportunity to connect with that trust on genuine terms, not through an ad campaign, but through an actual engineering relationship. The note wasn't a marketing gesture. It was closer to an open door. Timing made the gesture land even harder. It arrived while Bugatti's silence over the Chiron rebuild was still the biggest story in the hypercar world. A brand with a fraction of Bugatti's size and resources managed to say more with a note and a hoodie than Bugatti had said in weeks of public pressure. That contrast is exactly why the moment spread so quickly online. Clips of Matt opening the box were shared next to clips of Bugatti's silence.
The workshop is looking sick. I don't want to show you the full thing yet, it will spoil it. But right now, one thing that we did learn for building the Bugatti is the lads in Black Horse Performance. We have those lights on the wall, and when the car goes up in the air, it really helps for actually the lighting underneath the car to be able to see everything.
And viewers drew their own conclusions without anyone needing to spell it out. For a brand that produces fewer cars in a year than most dealerships sell in a weekend, Koenigsegg didn't need a large gesture to make an impact. It needed the right one. And by choosing curiosity over control, they positioned themselves as the manufacturer willing to meet a 6 million subscriber audience halfway, while Bugatti stood on the other side of a door it had locked itself. What Bugatti got wrong? Despite everything Matt Armstrong has said about Bugatti, Lamborghini, and Porsche, he never once asked any of them to disappear. What he wanted was much simpler, and he laid it out clearly in an interview. His ideal outcome starts with a phone call, a manufacturer reaching out to say they respect what he does, followed by real parts support and an honest walkthrough of the correct factory procedure, instead of a locked door. In exchange, Matt would talk about the brand honestly, including the parts that deserve praise, and his audience would see more real detail about that manufacturer than any official campaign has ever shown them. To Matt, this isn't sentiment, it's simple math. Most people watching his channel will never buy a Bugatti. He knows that, but he also knows what years of repeated exposure does to how people see a brand, because he lived it himself. He's talked about watching car shows as a teenager and assuming million-pound cars belong to a different world entirely, one he'd never be part of. Now he owns cars from that same world. Opinions shift slowly, one video at a time, and a brand that partners with him early benefits from that shift, instead of standing outside watching it happen. He's already seen this exact pattern before. Porsche refused to sell him a part for months, right up until his video on the rebuild started performing well. Only then did they start calling, asking how they could get involved. By that point, the story had already been told without them, and the moment that actually mattered had already passed. Matt's real complaint isn't that manufacturers eventually come around. It's that they only show up once the outcome no longer needs them. His theory is that the people making these calls at major manufacturers grew up in a different era, one without YouTube, without creators who build audiences that trust them the way his subscribers trust him. To that generation, protecting a brand still means controlling every camera and every release. What they haven't fully grasped is that the walls built to protect an image often end up making a company look like it has something to hide. This isn't really about Matt Armstrong getting free parts handed to him. It's about a legacy brand recognizing, before the internet forces the issue for them, that someone rebuilding a car in an ordinary garage and explaining every bolt to 6 million people is doing more for that brand's reputation than a decade of polished advertising ever could. Bugatti didn't make that call. Neither did Lamborghini. A much smaller company in Sweden already did, and that single gesture reached further than Koenigsegg probably expected. It reached Bugatti's own customers. There's a harder truth underneath all of this, that most manufacturers still haven't accepted. Trust doesn't come from a press release anymore. It comes from someone willing to open the hood on camera and explain what's actually inside, mistakes included. Matt's audience doesn't follow him because his videos are polished. They follow him because he shows the parts other channels are told to cut. A brand that understands this early gets years of that trust for the cost of a conversation. A brand that resists it ends up paying for the same trust later, after a rival already claimed it for free. Cracks in the empire. Once Koenigsegg's gesture became public, things got worse for Bugatti fast. It's important to be clear that this is an allegation raised publicly by the buyer, not a confirmed fact. But the accusation spread quickly, and it connected directly back to what Matt Armstrong had already exposed. Matt's earlier videos showed that some Bugatti components were sourced from other Volkswagen Group vehicles and rebranded, including airbags reportedly matching Audi A3 parts.
Just like the Bugatti one, and this is only £34.95. Everyone who's got an Audi A3, you have a Bugatti knee airbag in your car. And I'm hoping it's the same on the passenger side knee airbag as well.
The buyer didn't hold back in his response, calling Bugatti's pricing practices a scam outright, pointing to reported figures like $25,000 for an oil change and $300,000 gearbox quotes for what allegedly turned out to be a minor fuse problem. Then came a detail that made the message unmistakable. The buyer referred to the car as a Volkswagen Chiron instead of a Bugatti Chiron, a direct nod to Matt's findings about shared parts across the Volkswagen Group lineup, from Passat components to Lamborghini Gallardo fuse boxes. In his view, the car wasn't a handcrafted masterpiece anymore. It was a Volkswagen product, wearing a Bugatti badge and an extreme luxury price tag. What makes this buyer's criticism land differently is who he is. This isn't someone priced out of Bugatti ownership complaining from the sidelines. This is a wealthy collector, exactly the customer Bugatti depends on, choosing not to spend money with the brand on principle. Reports suggest interest is already building elsewhere in the hypercar world. Sources close to the collector scene say Pagani's camp has taken quiet notice of how Koenigsegg's move landed, and speculation is growing that Horacio Pagani's team may make a similar gesture toward Matt before long. Nothing is confirmed yet, but the pattern Bugatti started now has other manufacturers watching closely. None of this is happening in a vacuum. Hypercar buyers talk to each other. They compare notes on service experiences, on how manufacturers treat them after the sale, and on which brands feel like partners versus which ones feel like gatekeepers. A single public dispute rarely changes that conversation. A pattern does. And what started as one owner's fight over a wrecked Chiron has turned into a wider argument about whether Bugatti's approach to ownership.
The Bugatti brand will now fall under a new company owned by Croatian electric car startup Rimac and VW's Porsche brand. Volkswagen owned the Bugatti car brand for more than 2 decades.
Matches what buyers at this level actually expect in return for their money. Despite every warning Bugatti issued, the Chiron is running. The transmission Rimac said only 2 facilities on Earth could safely separate came apart in an ordinary garage. The safety concerns used to justify locking Matt out of the parts catalog didn't stop the rebuild, they just made it slower and far more public than it needed to be. That single fact undercuts every argument Bugatti made from the beginning. Bugatti still hasn't called. Neither has Lamborghini. Matt, meanwhile, has already moved on to another wrecked Bugatti. The industry is still deciding whether he's a threat worth shutting out or an opportunity 3 major manufacturers have already missed. What makes this moment different from Matt's earlier disputes is scale. The Porsche and Lamborghini situations played out mostly between Matt and a single brand. This one now involves a public feud with a CEO, a wealthy customer walking away on principle, and at least one competing manufacturer signaling interest from the sidelines. If Pagani does step forward, Bugatti won't just be dealing with one YouTuber and one unhappy buyer. It will be watching two rival brands use the exact situation it tried to bury as a chance to look better by comparison. Bugatti had every chance to make this right, and they let it slip away. Koenigsegg saw an opportunity in a creator the industry tried to shut out, and Pagani may be next in line to do the same. Meanwhile, the $6 million Chiron that was never supposed to run again is sitting in a garage, engine on, proving every warning wrong. This story isn't finished. More brands are watching, more owners are speaking up, and Bugatti's silence is getting louder by the day. If you think manufacturers should loosen their grip on independent repairs, or if you think Bugatti was right to protect its engineering, drop your take in the comments below. We want to hear where you stand. Hit like if this story caught you off guard. Subscribe so you don't miss the next update in this fight. And stay close, because the next move could come from any one of these brands.